Gang, I am so stoked at how well this mold produced a rotationally cast skull. I'm going to repair the mold and let it set overnight. I've got the my DAP silicone here, 100% pure silicone rubber, sealant. Makes an excellent adhesive. The first thing I'm going to do, I want to get in here and I want to repair the cuts that were made in this one section of mold here, and that was where it hung up, if you recall. I want to repair that. I want that all back together again. Yeah, so I'm going to get in there. There's a little bit, there's like a flap over here. I want to get some silicone on that. Just put it out on my modeling tool. Get down in there. Spread that apart and get the silicone down in between the cut flaps. By doing this, I stand a better chance of not capturing silicone in between those cuts that were made when, in order to get this mold off the original skull. Now a little more on the modeling tool. And I'm going to put that on this, on the tear here, right in the side of the mold. See that big tear right there? We're going to put that down in here. And Travis, if you're able to watch this, this is for you, brother. I'm going to show you how the silicone will make this repair. Since silicone is the only thing that can bond with silicone, it kind of makes sense that you can use it to make repairs like this. Alright, squeeze the part together, wipe off the excess. Okay, now I want to put this piece back down secure here. So I'm going to take some more silicone on the end of the modeling tool, a good amount. Just pull this piece away like so. Get the silicone down on there. Cover the entire surface. And just let this plop back into position. Wipe the excess, just like that. Just wipe the excess. Might put a little bit more. Yeah, there's plenty down in this tear. There's plenty. And then we also developed a tear on this side of the mold. So I'm going to make a repair to this side of the mold right here. Again, silicone on the tip of the modeling tool. Open the gaping wound. Insert the silicone, the medicine for the mold. Just let it go back, just let it draw itself back together. Now, the best way for this to hold itself overnight is to put the top parts of the mold around the silicone mold, the plaster, the mother mold, the jacket. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that this is, okay, this is correct in position. We'll put this in like so. Make sure it falls down in position. And then just for the halibut, I will put a rubber band around like so to make sure that the silicone stays down tight in the plaster jacket. Okay? And I'll do another one here at the back. Make sure that it's in place properly. Make sure it's well seated. From the little bit of resin that leaked during the rotational casting, the left and right side are essentially fused. I mean, I can get them apart if I want to, and I'll worry about that another time. But for right now, I wanted really, really badly to get this thing back together again. These parts. I wanted to reattach everything and make the repair to this mold. Now, what I'm doing now, I simply scooped out the little bit of dried silicone on the tip of the tube here so that it will be easy to dispense the next time I need it. Screw this on really good and tight. I might even put a little piece of tape around the base of that cap, piece of electrical tape, until I need it the next time. In fact, I'm going to do that while I'm thinking of it. Just take a little piece of electrical tape. These are all little tips I've picked up over the years from just, you know, it's funny when you receive something in the mail, such as a package from a supplier, okay, and you notice that they do things like that around the opening or the lid of a jar of silicone or the resin, what have you. Then you tend to remember that, and you think to yourself, there has got to be something to this. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of electrical tape, and I'm going to stretch it real tight around the base of this cap, real tight. I could have split it to make it a thinner strip of tape, but that's really not necessary at this point. I want to really secure along the bottom of this. Let me show you what I got here. Okay, right there. Right there. It's nice and snug, and I'll just put this down on here like so and hold it, and that will keep this from drying out, at least for a little while. Now the repairs have been made here. I'm going to just make sure any excess silicone is not oozing out too much. I really don't want to change the landscape of the mold. I do want to make the repairs, but I don't want the topography of the mold to change. Okay, now squeeze that again and make sure this is in proper position here. All right, and just wipe off the excess. Otherwise, this will affect part of the eye socket. All right, this will affect the inside of the eye socket if I don't clean this up. So I'm going to clean it up. I'm just scraping away any excess from the excess silicone sealant from the surface. But yeah, silicone sealant is a great way to ensure that you can repair a mold. I mean, this works well not just for this type of silicone, but this is also what I use to repair other silicone molds. Such as I have an old Platinum-cure Silicone mold of a African lion death mask, and I want to repair that. The ear, one of the ears has got like 3 tears in it. The Platinum-cure doesn't have a long library life, so I'll use this silicone sealant to make those repairs as well. Well, that's it. Okay, that's it for tonight. This will stay overnight, and tomorrow I'll probably try to pull another one, and I think I will do another rotational casting. Except this time, I'm getting smarter with each casting. See, I'm getting smarter with each casting. You've got to learn from this, folks. If you don't learn from it, you know, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them too. I'm just removing some of the excess resin that's along the edges here and along the seam of the left and right side. I would like to try and free this up one more time. Although what I have here now, I have an effective blockade against any more silicone leakage. So, but what I will do before putting this on before putting the belts on, the ceramic holding straps, what I'll do ahead of time, I will clay around the entire seams. All the seams of the mold will be clayed around the perimeter first before I strap them together. as well as the front seam and rear seam here on the base and down the center. I'm going to clay the entire thing. But that's my plans for tomorrow for this mold. But tonight I'm going to let it sit and let it heal. Going to let it heal its boo-boos. Going to let the boo-boos heal. Just take away the excess silicone. You want to avoid any more buildup of silicone. You don't want any additional silicone buildup, for sure, especially on the surface, on the meeting surfaces. You don't want it to interfere with the sitting of the bottom to the top. All right, so now this is done. Done and done. The bottom half still looks good. Yeah, I think this will be ready to pull create another pour tomorrow. Yeah. So with that, I will say good night. Good night. We done? Good. That ought to hold a little beep. Old radio program. Good night. Here we are at the next day, and allow me to show you a little something here. Here is the repair that was made last night. I let the mold sit for an entire day, totally undisturbed. Okay, the separation here is still intact. All right. And this part here that was repaired is still holding. Okay, it's still holding. The splits that were in the mold are now closed here and here. They're closed. Okay, so you can easily repair a silicone mold with a like type silicone. Now, would this work for a platinum cure? Yes, only if you use a Platinum-cure Silicone to make the repair. But on any tin-cure silicone, or of course this inexpensive silicone caulking, you can make the repair with the same product. Now I'm going to do a little something here. I want to prep this mold for yet one more casting. I'm not giving up the ship yet. That's why I made the repair. I'm going to try one more thing with him. I'm going to use my old can of Old Reliable Synlube 531 release agent. I'm going to spray the interior of the mold before I powder it this time, only because it's getting a little dry in there. And shake it up real well. And I'm just going to give it a little zap here and there. Kind of go in at an angle. I'll try and do this so you guys can see what I'm doing here. There we go. This is awkward. I usually hold things with my left hand. Holding the can about 6 inches away from the mold. Whoops. And I'm releasing the spray into it. Okay. All right. Now it will bead up on here because this is silicone after all. What I'm going to do to help it set, I'm going to take some canned air, all right? When you use these, don't shake it. If you shake it, the cold propellant will come out. And that can damage whatever you're working on. I just want the air to dry this. I want it to air dry. Oh yeah, granted it didn't get everywhere, but the spray got into enough places, I think, to be effective. Now where the resin leaked out and sort of sealed this mother mold and support jacket together, see there's all resin in here and whatnot, I'm going to leave that. All right, this is probably going to be, I know I've said it before, this is probably going to be the very last casting that I make. I'm going to take the bottom of the mold and if you recall, the wood stand on the bottom came away. I simply used my Tech Bond, the S1 black. I did a snake pattern and reversed it, put the glue on the board and pressed the plaster to it, and then held it down with the rubber bands, and again left that overnight as well. Here I'm going to use the can of spray again, and you see how that puts a coating on there? Alright, now because that's a liquid, I'm going to dry it with the air. It's like I say, it's an aerosol wax basically. That's what it feels like, that's what it smells like. And you can see that drying right before the camera here. Alright, that's all dried. Okay, that's good. That dried. That did exactly what I wanted it to do. The next thing in preparing the mold will be to powder it. Now, I have my little hair coloring dispenser here for filled with baby powder, and this is the way I dispense it into the mold parts. Just give little shoots of powder, don't need a lot. An extra makeup brush. Put a little light on the subject. There we go. What we do is we just puff this down, just pat this down, kind of puff it around. Okay? And I've got powder in the top portion already. And did the same thing, I puffed it around. Now what I do to further distribute the powder between both molds, I put the two mold halves together, lock the little locking points in to the sockets, and just remove the plaster. Makes it a little easier to handle when it's not quite as heavy. There we go. Remove the mother molds. Put my hands over the openings of the horn bases, and basically we go back and forth. And just like I did with the cat mold, I don't know how well you can see on here, but along here you can actually make out the tops of the molars. I don't know how well that shows up, but right along here is the ridge of the molars. Okay, regardless, we go back and forth with it, top and bottom, pull it apart, okay, and now this excess, the excess powder that's in here, we swing over to the garbage pail, alright, knock this out, like so, brush out the excess a little bit, and I'll use the canned air on this as well. Here we are. Just blow off the excess. Do the same thing with the top portion of the skull mold. Just knock the powder out like so. Now blow it out. Make sure we get in all the crevices here. Get all the powder out. Okay. Swing back around to the table. And put the mold halves back in their respective cradles. I'm even considering doing something a little more drastic this time. A little more drastic. Never done anything like this before, but because this is real loose in the plaster support at this point, it's fitting kind of loose. What I'm considering doing, I'm considering putting a little bit of the silicone sealant around the edge and putting the molds together and let them sit overnight. Not a lot. I'm not looking to cement it closed. I'm just looking to give it kind of a helping hand. So the first thing to do is to take my Vaseline, my straight Vaseline, and apply it to the tips of all of these little locking points by hand first. First thing. Okay. Just one. And this has got one reason only, to help it slide in really smoothly and make good contact. Again, these ideas come to me in the wee hours. It is again, it's after midnight again, okay? That done. I'm now going to take a wee bit of silicone and I'm going to apply it around the edge of the lower portion of the mold. It's going to take a little bit on the modeling tool, and I'm going to go around the rear edge here, just a little bit. I'm just, at this point, I know I keep saying this will probably be the last casting, but you never know. With me, you never know. It's just little smears of silicone. This should come right apart. I should be able to pull this right apart. Okay, that's done. Kept this. I'll put the electrical tape on after I put these two mold halves together. Right on. Okay. We'll press that down to tight contact. Next, I'm going to apply the straps. Before I put on the straps, I will clay the edges. I'm only putting the straps on temporarily, okay, to help hold the mold parts down tight. That's the only reason the mold straps are going on first. I will be putting them on. Let's put this on backwards here. I want the buckle to clip towards the front. Like so. I want to make sure this gets in between the horn base openings. All right. Like so. And I want this held down tight. Whoops. Well, there goes the wood again. Okay. I'm not too concerned about loosening up the board. That happened the first time too. And I just simply loosened it. It wasn't that anything, it wasn't the plaster that cracked. It was the board worked loose just a bit. Now, we put the rear strap on. I could tell where each strap goes by the size it was left open. All right, now before these get put on for molding, a couple of things will be done. The first is I will spray down the entire plaster mold with the Synlube 531 release agent, the wax. That's after I apply the clay, all right? But for now, these are simply going to sit here overnight. Okay? These are going to sit overnight and help hold this thing down tight. This will help ensure that little tiny bit of silicone sealant that I put in there as an adhesive will actually work as an adhesive. Okay? Make this a wee bit tighter. There we go. Bring it a little more evenly in place. Aha, that'll be much, much better. There we go. Remember, watch where your fingers are with these things. They do bite. They're like sharks in the mold making world. Once you figure out exactly where to place it, it's golden. It's finding the sweet spot for it. And you know you've got the sweet spot when the damn thing stops popping back open again. Scratch that. When the darn thing stops popping open. There we go. Okay. We're going to leave the dinosaur egg wrapped up real tight overnight, and I'll get back to it over the weekend. All right, I've let the mold stay secured together overnight with silicone, sealing it together. Right now, before I start anything, I'm going to treat the plaster mold in case there's any other leakage. I want to try and keep any more resin from sticking to the plaster. For that, I've got a product from Smooth On. It's called Sonite Wax 2. It's a paste wax and sealing agent. You can also use Johnson's paste wax and whatnot. I bought this for use with another one of Smooth On products that they recommended you use it, so I bought it and I use it. Now, any kind of wax like this will work wonderfully for plaster mold. If you're going to use plaster as your mother mold for a permanent rubber mold, I strongly recommend sealing the plaster mold with clear shellac or even amber shellac. It used to be called orange shellac, but I don't think they make orange shellac anymore. You can only find what's called amber shellac. This plaster mold will eventually just be shelved along with the rubber mold itself once its life has come to an end. I'm putting the paste wax on the bottom, along the edge in the bottom, the inside of the bottom. I'm just putting it on with my finger. It's wax. Now, like I say, this will also help seal the plaster. That's the bottom, and now I'm going to do the same thing to the top. Just going to coat this with wax, and I'm going to keep on going. And when I come back, the mold will be put together, and I will be claying around the edges. All right, what I've done in respect to the clay and the straps and whatnot, I've put the clay around the front, around this front portion here, and around the rear. I first put down the long waist strap, the lengthwise strap. Now I'm putting down the strap that covers the front. I've got to put this down where it's level. Now, the clay is now under the straps, which was different than before. I'm really trying to take no chances with the pouring of this thing in regard to where things are going to be located. And this one is going to be rotationally cast. All right, that's that one. I'm going to loosen up just a little bit to get it to lay tight. There we go. There we go. That's tight, but not too tight that it'll snap itself open. Clay from under the 60-watt bulb. Okay. And I roll it and I lay it in along here. What I noticed was just before I was putting the clay down, the plaster mold needed to be squished down tight. And the first one I tried going over this way, but then realized I had forgotten the lengthwise strap. So I had to take this guy off. And when I took it took off some of the clay that was sticking to it, which means it's really going to be well sealed. Plus, like I said, the silicone has been kind of semi-secured in places around its perimeter using the silicone sealant. Now I'm going to turn this side so you can see being done here. All right, make sure this is all sealed. And then I'll put the strap around the back portion. I'll put the strap around the back portion. Or the rear portion of the dinosaur egg mold slash thing here. And this clay is just going to seal everything up. I'm not worrying about making it look neat. I'm not worried about being neat. I'm just worrying about being thorough right now. Now that that's done, turn this back around again like so. And I'm going to take the mold clamp and I'm going to go ahead and slide it under the egg and then clamp this eggshell down as tight as I possibly can. And I want to be sure I don't hit and distort the top of the mold here. All right, there we go. Oops, let's get this a little more forward. There we are. Oh, there we are. All done. Now, this puppy right here is ready to be put onto the Manatron rotational casting machine. All right, we're here at the Manatron 2x2 rotational casting machine. I've got the resin, the part A and part B, mixed up. There are about 3 1/4 ounces of part A, 3 1/4 ounces of part B mixed into this cup. I'm going to pour it in to the funnel. Just squeeze the cup to make a spout. Run it down the side of the funnel to try and avoid creating any more air bubbles than necessary. And I'll be keeping an eye on the opening on this side to make sure it doesn't overflow. I've got my warmed clay off to the side so I can grab it immediately and plug the horn core open. Here we are, here we are, here we are, here we are. All right, that's a little bit more than I wanted to put in, but I think we're okay. I'm going to take the warmed clay, take big globs of warmed clay, and I'm hoping this holds to where I want it to be. I'm going to put it over the first hole horn opening and over the second horn opening. I'm going to loosen this main strap from the machine so I can rightfully apply and spread the clay the way I want it to. And I'm really hoping this doesn't let loose this time. I don't know, for some reason today I'm not that confident. It's been a couple of days since I've done the last couple. What I have is I have a couple of rubber bands that I'm going to put in position over the clay to help hold it down. All right, like so. And now I'm going to strap the long mold or the long strap across the mold from front to back. I need to make it tight, but not too tight to disturb the other straps. Again, press the clay down into contact with the plaster. Okay. I'm going to now turn on the machine, and I'm going to hope for the best. Because today I'm not feeling very confident, but here we go. And I'll be checking it from time to time. It's now 3:18. I need to check how many minutes it's running. So far, so good. Now everything is being evenly distributed within the confines of the mold. I'm looking at the horn base. This is where I created the spout, and I see one that I think I might need to tighten down a little bit. Maybe I'm just being a little fearful, which is possible. I have some clay, not clay. I did put some of the Sonite 2 paste wax around the plaster located at the horn bases, and as well as on the strap, and that's what I saw. I thought it was resin. It was just a little bit of the paste wax, which had kind of been pinched up when I secured the mold strap in place. Yeah, I think that's what we got here. Everything looks dry. Everything looks good. Just want to keep an eye on things as it goes. We started at 3:18. It's been one whole minute, and so far everything's looking good. You know, you have a dream about the thing letting go, and it's just like, it's in your mind, and it's like, all right, am I going to do the right thing, or am I going to screw this up? And I think everything is okay. Right, I think we're holding all right. Let me just give it a little check here. Check. Check. Looking good all the way around. Just one of those things, folks. You know, it's, again, mold making is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Alright, as it turns out, I did develop a little leakage. You see where the resin was coming out here. So what I did was I stopped it. I added some more clay to the area to the side where it was leaking out. I think what happened was, because this thing is so well sealed, it took the point of least resistance, which was the horn opening, and it did leak out. Not a lot. I don't know if it was enough to cause any damage as far as you know, creating air pockets inside, but it is still in a liquid state. So I've turned it back on. I'm going to let it run, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it while it is running for a little while longer until it begins to gel. I've got the cup here, and the stuff in the cup is beginning to gel. But I'm just going to have to keep an eye on the mold as it turns to make sure nothing else leaks out. I did wipe the leaking bit of resin up, and you can see as it goes around. Look down on the black lawn and leaf bag. You can see there is some resin down there where that leaked out. But you know, that's one of the things that happens. That's one of the risks you run. Like I say, this was not a rotational. This was not a mold that was designed for rotational casting. This was something I tried once. It worked well. It leaked from the sides because of the rotational casting, but now that the sides have been sealed, it's coming out the only point of entry that it could find, and that was the horn opening. So I'll be checking it from time to time, stopping it and checking it as it goes. But again, this is all for full disclosure, just to let you know, it all didn't all go perfect. A little little tiny mishap. It's not like the clay blew away and leaked everything out. Don't forget, it's a thermal chemical reaction, so it warms up, and as it warms up, it rises in the confines of the mold. And if the mold is not sealed completely or not made for rotational casting, you will get some leakage. That was more than I would have liked to see, but it's been fixed. Thinking things through, perhaps the reason a little bit of resin leaked out of here, and it looked like it could have been anywhere from about maybe a 1/4 ounce to a 1/2 ounce, if that much. But I'll bet the whole reason it did leak out was this time I used 3 1/4 of part A, 3 1/4 of part B, and in doing so, you remember I saw it beginning to rise up to the opening of the horn base. Okay, now what that did, the first time when I had the first rotational cast, I used 3 ounces of A and B. That was the smarter thing to do. Regardless, that's how you learn this stuff, you know. You make your mistakes and you move on. Now it's nearly 5 p.m. We started this at like 3:18, and I just left it on the machine a lot longer than I had originally planned. Feels like it's cooled down by now. So I will remove the straps like so. Pull these rubber bands off as well. And get this off of here. There they go. Boop. And the front strap. Now, the only thing sticking to it this time, or the strap is sticking to, is the clay. And you can see the impression it made in the clay right there. This is pretty cool. That's it. A little upsetting when, you know, things, oh gosh, you know, things happen. Oh my goodness. But, well, there we have there. That came away very easily. Right, this is the long strap, front to back. All right, I'm going to lift. That came off nice. Now all this extra clay, the original went over the top here, come around. Yeah, we've got maybe about a 1/2 ounce or so of leakage. I don't know how much quote-unquote damage this did to the casting inside as far as creating any air pockets. It might not have created air pockets, though it may have created some weak spots in the cast. But I'm going to go ahead and continue to open the whole project. First thing I want to do is lift the resin that's spilled out away, and because this was waxed with that Sonite paste wax, it's coming away really, really well. I even applied it to the top of the silicone, only for the simple fact that this mold has been used a few times and it may not resist the plastic, the resin grabbing it. Now that came away from the plaster real well, and again, the plaster all around had the paste wax applied. Just going to lift that away where it overflowed. And now that's really well set. That's set good. That's solid. Okay. Next thing to do is to peel away the clay. Like so. Peel it away so the mold can be opened. We're clean underneath The seam is clean under the clay. I can see. Yeah, it looks pretty darn clean. So I'm going to continue removing the clay, and we'll be opening the, we'll be cracking the egg open on camera. And just like the first time we opened the mold after rotationally casting, I'm going to, oh, well, that was easy enough. Clay's been removed. Oh, cool. All right. The inside of the mold is clean, I must say. Really, that's really wicked cool. And now this should just pop right out of the plaster. There's no leakage at all around the edge. I mean, this baby is clean. I feel like the magic munchkin from Poltergeist. This mold is clean. Yes. Now let's put this over here for now. The tiniest bit of resin leaked out. And I mean, this is minimal. Okay, the next trick is to open this mold, which, don't forget, had been glued closed, well, slightly sealed. Well, it's all right. Okay, it's releasing. All right, it did hold, and it held, it seems, just enough. It held just enough to keep the mold parts together. Remember, the other thing about this mold, these locking points, these are just little, these were just little inserts into the clay I made with the base, the bottom base of my Sharpie marker. Okay, they just went into the clay like so. These are not, this is not the same thing as when I used the little wood buttons that I did in the cat skull, because the cat skull mold was a permanent mold. This is a temporary mold at best. So now the bottom came right off. There is minimal flashing here. Oh gosh, this is really sweet. And I'm just going to start breaking this away like so. Okay. All right. And as with the first rotational cast mold, I need to do a few little minor things. I need to break away the resin that's holding tight in the bottom of the eye sockets. Okay? So I'm just going to break this loose. I'm going to break the resin loose on the bottom here. And the same thing to the other side, right here, like so. This is just a little thicker on this side for some reason. But still, I'm going to break through. Now, I'm not going to mess around. Just going to grab the cloth and try and pry this away and break it loose. Hold this tight against me. All right, well, the mold, all right, that little repair I made where I put that part of the mold back into place, it broke off. It's broken, so it's trapped in there. But that's okay. If I want to use the mold again, that can be dug out and re-glued into place. There's that one there. The rear of the eye socket. Side of the eye socket is loose. This side may just cause a few more headaches. Okay, I really got to try and get in here with the modeling tool. So I'm going to try this. Hope it works. Loosen this up. There, we got the plastic broken. And, aha, I see. The plastic leaked in between the little seam of the eye socket where it was cut to release it from the original skull, from the actual skull. So I'm going to try this again. It looks like this may tear off. I'm just saying, it looks like it may actually tear away at this point. Although I guess I can at this point come in and roll the mold forward over the horn buds. I'll try it again. Get more cloth in there for a better grip. Even though there was no Vaseline used this time, the silicone itself is still plenty slick enough. There we go. There we go, just like so. Now you see how this is hung up in here? Right in the eye socket. She's really hung up. So I need to get in there with the modeling tool, and as gently as I can, I got to try and dig this out. Come on now. I don't want to break the casting. I don't mind breaking the mold. If this is the last cast that this mold produces for me, then so be it. I do not want to break the mold. So I think this particular mold is going to be really super. I mean, this particular casting out of this mold, the last casting, is going to be really super. And if the mold is destroyed in the process, well, that's what happens. But I do want to try and get it out of the mold. That's the main thing. Get the mold. Actually, this time I need to get the mold out of the casting. Bingo. Got it. Okay. We do have a pretty poor eye socket on that side. And we have an exceptionally poor eye socket on this side. Wow. Wow. These came out already where you could see through them. But here's the eye socket on this side is really wrecked. Okay, so I think it appears that the casting that was made before this, the rotational casting that was made before this one, is going to be the rotational casting to have come out of the mold. That would be this one here. This one just came out, and you see the damage to the eye socket. Again, this can be repaired. It's not totally lost or gone. The bit of resin that we lost through the top did affect the cast in a negative way, but just ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. I think this is the mold's way of saying, I'm done. And it has served its purpose. It has not only done double duty, this mold has performed quadruple duty. Remember, we had the first solid pour, then I made the second solid pour, then I made the first rotational cast right here, and now the last rotational casting. And I think that'll be it for this mold. So I showed that we can, in fact, get 4 pours out of the mold. And probably if I had not used quite as much, that extra 1/4 ounce each of A and B that I used, I would have probably had better results. But the amount of flashing that came out around the edges of the mold, man, this is as minimum as it gets right here. That is minimal. The biggest problem we had was the eye socket catching up and hanging up. But as I say, that's really not a really big problem. So you've gone through all the different various castings with me. The highs certainly outweighed the lows in that respect. And we're not really missing any parts. We're just a little light in areas, that's all. And that's nothing that's some Tech Bond CA adhesive and baking soda can't repair. There's just a lot of little nasty areas. And this is what happens. If you're not careful, you will get a boo-boo. And I got my boo-boo. Always happens to the knuckle. Well, all right. I've gone and got the other piece of silicone out of the back of the eye socket. That's gone. Used this pliers, this pliers to grab it. And I glued the two pieces together because it came out in two pieces. So that little bit's been repaired. I may glue it back to the main part of the mold just for posterity. I may not. But it's not bad. A little work and a little shaping, a little tenderizing, and down it goes. These marks here, by the way, I don't know, you may have noticed these little lines on the top of the skull here. Okay? This mark is from simply not having the silicone properly pressed down on the original skull at the time of molding, and it left little lines inside on the inside of the mold, all right, that were in fact picked up by all of the casts that were made. It's located right here, and that puts it right there. So that's one of the lessons. Probably a better way to apply the silicone to the skull initially would be maybe in one large piece. Then, well, okay, you would put one large piece at the back, like so, and go into the eye sockets. One large piece over the front and down the sides and down over the nasal bones and the prefrontal bones, all in one shot, rather than putting them in little bits and pieces. Again, it was the first time I've used this method to mold an antelope skull. Okay, probably won't be the last. I have other small skulls I'd like to reproduce, such as a Steenbok and whatnot. I may even go up and do an entire Springbok skull, just to see if I can do it. So, you know, there's lessons learned in each project that you do. There are ways to do them better, and you learn them each time. The main thing is to, like I say, never give up, okay? And always be willing to try something new. You know, always be willing to go for it again. There's really nothing holding you back but your own, you know, your own trepidation. And there's a lot of that when you're doing stuff like this. You know, no lie, there's a lot of that. Well, now that the upper skulls are complete, the only things left to do would be to create molds for the horns and the lower mandibles. And when that's done, this skull will be a complete unit. Top, upper skull, bottom part, which is the lower mandibles, and then the horns to go over the cores. And I'll cover those at a later date when they're done. Until then, adios. I hope to see you down the trail.